Hi there, my name is Luke at Young Writers, and I'm here today with a very wonderful lady who wants to share her story. So if you'd like to give us a bit of an introduction about yourself.
Hi there, I'm Natalie. I am the mum of Amelia, who is 7 years old. She had a brain injury at birth, and the prognosis at birth was pretty poor. And this week I found out that she'd had her story published by Young Writers, which is fantastic.
Amazing, and that's what we want to share here. So going back to the start, do you want to tell us a bit more about how the journey of Amazing Amelia started, and tell us a bit more about that?
Absolutely. So obviously her birth was fairly traumatic. I won't go into the details of that. And she ended up acquiring something called HIE, which basically means lack of oxygen to the brain. The prognosis for Amelia was very, very poor. She was in intensive care for 6 weeks. I was also in intensive care for 15 days. And I actually didn't meet Amelia until she was 17 days old.
Oh.
So my sister kind of became a surrogate mum for those first few weeks. And my husband obviously was kind of frantically going from one intensive care unit to another. Her prognosis from the doctors was world shattering. They said that she wouldn't know who she was, she wouldn't know who she was in the world, she wouldn't know who we were. Very high chance that she'd be blind and deaf, would be significantly physically impacted and cognitively impacted. And so set forth our kind of mission to do the best that we could possibly do for Amelia, whatever that might be. And obviously we didn't know where that journey would take us, but she has taught us that anything is possible. The doctor said to me that it was very dangerous for me to have hope. I like to think that I'm a very positive person, but in that moment, my world kind of fell apart around me. But my goodness me, has she shown us that there is hope, and there is always hope, and it is not dangerous to have hope at all. And actually, it's that hope that sparked things in our family to encourage Amelia to be the best possible version of herself.
Yeah, I mean, hope can be a beautiful thing, is kind of a moral, and it seems like in actual fact she's taught you a lot going through this. From what you seem is that, you know, you've gained a lot of experience and you really have learned a lot about your life, and do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I work in education myself, so I'm currently a deputy head in the West Midlands. When I had Amelia, I was an assistant head down in London. She was born down in London. And I kind of thought I knew everything about child development. Little did I know. And so as she came home and as we realised how difficult she was in terms of, you know, she couldn't feed and she had a tube up her nose, and we had to kind of process in our heads what that meant for our lives. And then we started to see little glimmers of, actually, I think she can feed normally. And then eventually this tube fell out and we were supposed to call them back up to have it put back in. And my husband and myself made a decision, actually, we're not going to do that. And we didn't. And she learned how to drink her milk orally, normally. And from those very early months, you know, that we're talking 8 weeks old, 10 weeks old, we started to see, actually, Amelia is, yes, she's presenting with some issues, but it's not actually the issues that we were told that we were going to be given. And as she kind of progressed and got a little bit older, the dialogue between ourselves and the professionals who were involved in her care changed, and the story started to be, Amelia doesn't present normally. Amelia's very complex. Amelia does things in her own way. And she has kind of embodied that as she's grown older. And for myself personally, she has really taught me to kind of live in the moment and take each day at a time. And as a busy person who works in education, I'm always forward planning all the time because that's what we have to do. But she's really taught me to stop and just appreciate what you've got now,
Yeah.
and deal with what you've got now. So it's definitely changed me personally.
I mean, that's incredibly beautiful. And it's really fascinating how you work in education and you say, you know, you read these books and you think you know everything about it, and then it comes to you face to face and you learn so much more through experience. And it's truly a fascinating thing. So with all of that in mind, we fast forward to where Amelia is at now, and how is she doing now? How is she?
So when we started to think about schooling, we were down in London and they wanted to go to a mainstream school. Now, I'd realised at this point that Amelia was actually quite bright.
Mm-hmm.
And she, from a very early age, I'm talking 18 months, loved stories, loved anything with repetition. We watched Going on a Bear Hunt. I can't even tell you how many times in the car, because she was a nightmare in the car, and that was the only thing that would keep her calm. So stories and her attention to stories were very obvious from a very young age. And so whilst I thought she was bright, obviously she can't talk, so we had no means to communicate with her other than her kind of facial gestures. I did not want her to go to mainstream. I know myself and my colleagues kind of bust a gut for children who have got special educational needs, but I knew that Amelia's kind of physical needs would not be able to be met in a mainstream school. So she's wheelchair bound. She can walk with a kind of a walking system, but she needs a lot of stretching during the day. She needs an awful amount of OT input because she can't use she's got very poor reflexes in her hands. So if she holds a pen, it falls out, despite the fact that she really wants to. And obviously, because she couldn't communicate, speech therapy needed to have a massive impact in her world. So we decided mainstream wasn't the right choice. We looked around some special schools in London. None of them kind of fit the bill. And I remember as a child, so I'm currently in Worcestershire in the Midlands, and there was a special school next to where I went to school called Chad's Grove. And one half term, I came back to see my mum, and I thought, I'm going to reach out to them, see if I can just meet them, see what they are all about. And I walked through the foyer and I knew immediately this was the place for Amelia. It's a small school, it's a specialist sports school, and whilst sports wasn't in my mind in terms of Amelia, academically, when I walked around, I was seeing pupils who were completing their GCSEs, they were learning Shakespeare, but they couldn't talk.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, oh my goodness, you know, the aspiration here is high. Nothing is being dumbed down. This is a place for us. So we managed to get her a place, and we moved. So we moved from London. We moved back to my home. My husband's from Australia, so you know, it didn't really have a massive impact on him. And she started school. She's now 7. She is pretty much now on course to get an eye gaze machine. So it's a computer screen where she looks with her eyes, and she has pictures that will tell us what she's thinking in her mind. So over the last 2 years, school and the speech therapy team, and obviously us at home, have been working really hard on making that really clear. So she having to give really clear choices. At the moment, it's in a big folder, and we've got about 40 pages, and she looks to say next page. It's a long process, but she has risen to that challenge. And I think the biggest kind of glimmer for me as to her brightness, I suppose, was in the first lockdown. We went into shielding, so we had to shield Amelia. I obviously couldn't go into work. We were homeschooling like the rest of the world, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing in front of me, because I had the time and I was being asked to do things from school, and I was thinking, well, I'm not sure she's going to be able to put a sentence together. And then there she was, and she'd written her first story with me at home about my mum and Amelia and my mum going on a journey to the zoo. And it took us a week. And she could reorder the sentence. I could cut it up. She knew where it needed to go. I thought, I'll do a bit of a phonics screening on her. This is where my teacher head came in. I'll do a bit of a phonics screening on her because she's that age. And she flew through it. At which point I thought, oh my goodness, I've been doing my girl a disservice. I didn't know she could do all of this. And so really, from that point, our perspective of Amelia's kind of cognitive abilities, kind of, it blew our mind, because we knew she was bright, but I didn't know she was kind of on par with children of her age. And then obviously her school entered her to do the competition actually when she was 6 years old. They didn't realise it was a competition for 7 to 11-year-olds. And Mrs. Owen, the teacher, actually, I think she called you guys to say, I'm so sorry, I didn't realise, but we think this is an amazing story. Will you please just consider it anyway? And obviously you guys did. And letter came home last week, and I didn't even know anything about this. It all just happened kind of in the background. So as a 6-year-old, she's now 7, having a short story published that she's written entirely by using her eyes and her communication book. And your school have said to me, it took a long time. But when Amelia starts something, she's somebody who is determined to finish it.
Yeah.
She knows her own mind, and she knows exactly what she wants to do, and she will make that very much known to everybody. So I think at school they were kind of like, no, we're not doing that now, we've got to do this. But Amelia was kind of saying, no, we're finishing this, and I need to get to the end of my story. So that's kind of brought you up to speed as to where we are now.
Yeah, so I mean, you had no idea. The school, so you work at a different school, and Amelia went to this.
I work in mainstream, so
you had no idea she was entered into it until she came home with this certificate.
Yeah, and obviously her teacher called me to say, I've got some absolutely amazing, brilliant news to tell you. I thought, oh my, what's going on? Obviously, she told me on the phone, she said, we've all been tearing up at school because we're just so proud of her. So yeah, I know nothing about it.
It's beautiful. So I mean, how did that feel? Tell me how that phone call went, how that went down.
Obviously, just amazing. My husband and myself are extremely proud of Amelia, and
as you should be, for sure.
Yeah, and we never knew, and we still don't know what life will bring to us as Amelia gets older, and as we get older, and obviously that's a concern. But then you have these moments when somebody rings you to say this amazing thing has happened, and it's a glimmer of normality. But for me, especially in the education world, it's, oh yeah, I know about this competition. We enter our kids into this. I know all about this. And then when I take a step back and I think, actually, this is incredible that my girl, who can't speak, who had this horrific brain injury at birth, whose prognosis was just appalling, has written a story independently on her own, and it's a fabulous story, and it's been published. I mean, it's just incredible. Myself and my husband, obviously both welder, we spread the word to our family. I obviously then put it on Twitter. I don't tweet personal things. I kind of keep my account for a work purpose, but I couldn't not share it with the kind of Twitter world, and obviously it went a bit crazy on Twitter, and you found me and I found you, and here we are.
I mean, that's what's really important, is that this is a truly inspirational, amazing story about how anyone can really achieve what they set their mind to. You say that you don't know what the future holds for Amelia, but from what it seems like is that she's going to do what she wants to do regardless. She's got to throw everything at it, and it's really a story that anyone can do that. Anyone can take part in this. Anyone can achieve what they want to achieve, and it's something that other people can see, and hopefully it ignites something in them as well to try and achieve these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I completely agree with you. For me, there aren't many things that Amelia can take part in that most normal children can take part in. Going to the park with her is incredibly difficult. There is very rarely anything that she can actually go on and enjoy. She doesn't get invited to birthday parties. You know, she hasn't got any friends per se that come to our house. I mean, she's got friends in school, but that normal part of childhood doesn't exist for Amelia because of the nature of the children that she goes to school with, and they're all very vulnerable. And the world itself isn't really molded to children like Amelia. So when you get glimmers of things like this that you wouldn't think would be accessible to children like Amelia, but actually it is.
Yeah.
It's life reaffirming for us, because actually in some way she is a normal 7-year-old girl, and she wants to write a story, and she's very proud of herself. And you know, she came home absolutely squealing with excitement to show me her certificate. She knew exactly what it was.
Yeah.
She knew exactly how impressive it was. So to have that sense of normality for us is just lovely.
And that it truly is. Like, it's a sense of achievement for anyone who enters. You know, it's a really amazing opportunity, and these books will be kept in the British Library forever. You know, they'll be published, and her name will be out there. So it's a great thing for anyone. But I can imagine that this was kind of that extra step up. It was really, as you say, like affirming, and I can imagine it truly helped her to feel like, you know, empowering, that she can go and achieve.
Totally.
And it's really amazing that we could be a part of that, you know, ourselves. It's great that we can get her to feel like that, and it's truly incredible that she's done it. It's admirable, and it's phenomenal, and you know, props to her.
Absolutely agree.
And so tell us a little bit how she physically would have made this story. You say that she sometimes struggles holding a pen to write. So I mean, I think a lot of people found that really interesting, how she went about doing that, because it's a totally different
it's taken us 7 years to get to a place where we've finally made a decision on which would be the best communication method for Amelia. So she's got a very high tone in her muscles, which means that when she wants to really do something, those muscles go into spasm, and then she's like this. The opposite can then take effect. So she's got the pencil in her hand, and she knows that she wants to put that pencil to paper, but her brain injury means that she's not got control over that muscle, so she lets go of it. So holding anything like a spoon or anything like that, it's almost impossible for Amelia. I mean, technology in the world now is fantastic, and there are some means and ways around it, but it's not going to be the way that Amelia would communicate. We've tried using something called switches that look like big buttons, and she would tap the buttons, but again, she just did not have the muscle control to do it when she needed to do it. So that was kind of ruled out fairly quickly. And she's got really good head control, so she actually looks quite poised when you see Amelia. And so she now just uses her eyes. So she will look at the book in front of her, which has got, I think it's about 16, 20 choices on there. And she will stare at what it is that she wants. We will repeat that back. She will acknowledge it. Normally for us, we'll get a which means yes. And then we move on to the next thing. So she's got a very big communication book, which is all of her needs, her routines, what she wants, adjectives, describing words, things like that. Aside from that, she will have kind of subject specific pages. So her story was about the woods. So there would be on there, you know, forest, path, lots of different words that Amelia would be able to choose that are outside her communication book. And using a conjunction of both of those things, she then is able to form her sentences. And then we, the staff at school, will then check with her that she's happy at each point before we proceed on to the next one. But we're now at the point, hopefully by summertime, that will all move on to a laptop. And so the machinery picks up where her pupils are gazing, and then it automatically puts it into a sentence for her.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do that all in between bit of, is that right? Yes, like moving on, where is it the next page? She will be able to do that in time, completely independently on a computer screen. So it's actually, I'd never even knew really that this existed, but you know, as she gets older, she'll be able to use her eyes to turn the TV on, to change the channel, to bring her bed down, to shut the curtains. So all of these skills that we're kind of nurturing now, and it takes a long time, and I've had to go doing it myself, and my brain is so struggling to work out where I've got to go next and to hold my gaze. And this kid's walking it, you know, she's a 7-year-old and she's just blown it out of the water. So, you know, the future is bright for Amelia, but, you know, technology has to be there to kind of get her there in the most easiest manner.
I mean, her future is definitely bright. And that's one thing that's kind of been signified by this. Truly, she is a remarkable young lady that hopefully these opportunities do keep coming up for her and she can develop. And as you say, with this technology coming through, that she can just go further and further and achieve all these amazing, wonderful things that I'm sure that she is aligned to achieve. So I'm sure she truly does have a bright future ahead of her.
Yeah, I mean, she is such a big lover of books. I mean, I'm a teacher, so I've got a lot of books. But we get through books at rates unknown. Bedtime stories. You know, she's got a membership at the library. They know her there. We get through probably 4 books a week with her. Sorry?
What's her favourite book?
At the moment, she's really got into Enid Blyton.
Okay.
The magic chair. So I think just anything that's kind of magical and, you know, where the world can be anything that you want it to be, actually aligns really well with Amelia, because the world can be anything that she wants it to be. No,
I think the world of books can be transformative to anyone, but I can imagine that it's kind of more helpful, so, you know, to someone in this position, and it's beautiful that they have these skills, and amazing that she loves reading. And, you know, we are very big advocates of going down to the local library and grabbing these books, and, you know, I wish these ones behind me were real, but she's an incredibly bright young lady and resembles everything that we love here, and it's just fascinating and amazing, and she is truly phenomenal. I have one last question for you, and that is quite simply, what does young writers mean to you?
For me, I think it sparks something in all children, whether they have got needs like Amelia or not, that they can achieve, they can publish something that other children around the world, other adults around the world will read. It brings a sense of pride in their abilities, no matter what their ability is. And I think it kind of encompasses the amazing imaginations that children have, and that we can go as a reader, as a writer, wherever we want to go, and there's no limits to it. Yeah.
Well, thank you a million for sharing your story.
Welcome.
And being here and telling us about it. It's a beautiful thing, and, you know, we want to get it out to people, and we want to help inspire people, and that is certainly what you guys are doing very, very well with this. So we appreciate it so much, and we hope that it does build something in other children and other people, you know, everywhere, to let them see that anything is possible and they can truly achieve their dreams if they put their mind to it.
Absolutely.
That was our Young Writers interview with Natalie about her wonderful daughter, Amelia. If you enjoyed this, feel free to go and share it on our social media and give us a thumbs up, and thank you for tuning in.